Green Arrow issue 25. We'll get into it. But this was interesting coming into this because we'd finished the previous arc. We'd done with the Clearwater stuff or the Freshwater stuff, and here we're on to something new. And I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how it was going to feel. And there's a very big Roy Harper focus here. He's here with Ollie. They end up crashing a gala that's happening because they're fighting with Vertigo and come crashing through in this big double-page spread. And when the rich guy who's being honoured at this gala comes up, Mr. Royce, to sort of say hello and thank you for saving them, Oliver just goes into dick mode and is like, I've heard about you. You've been doing shady things and I'm not happy about it. So
he calls him a bottom feeder.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, hell yeah, get him.
Yeah.
He also looks like Mark Strong with hair. So I immediately do not trust this man.
I could see it.
Because I've watched enough movies to not trust Mark Strong.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, most of the exact thing he says. Yeah, he's a farmer, bro. He basically got sold a drug that got a lot of people addicted. There was deaths, and he's like, oh, my company was cleared of any wrongdoing. And Oliver compares it to someone putting a gun in someone's hand. It's not my fault if someone actually fires it. So it's like, okay, so we're setting up this villain of sorts. Although Roy's very apologetic and sort of apologizes for Ollie's behavior and follows him away. But we get some shots of them, jumping through the city rooftops and all that, and reminiscing and saying, hey, it's great to be doing this again. Reminds me of the old days. Someone even calls Roy Speedy at one point, and he's like, yeah, just like the old days. And that's kind of it. So, it's very, obviously the art here is great. It does a good job of giving it a bit of mood, even though it's inherently not as moody as the last arc. Because the last arc was very much like, we're doing this kind of dark, mysterious, like creeping through the night kind of stuff. This was a bit more, I guess, traditional superhero.
Yeah, this one has a lot more open spaces, right? There's a lot less darkness in the beginning of it with how Montos is doing the art. Like you said, it's a lot more traditional superhero, like the splash page of Vertigo and the arrows coming down through the skylight and whatnot. Until we get to the end when Roy goes on his own, where we get a lot more of those Montos-y, kind of shadowy, and it cranks up the suspense a bit more, and it starts to really come into what we expect from a Chris Condon and Montos Green Arrow story.
Yeah. And Oliver does the whole proud dad thing where he's like, you've grown up, you've got a great daughter, you've got all this stuff going, you kicked your habits. So they don't bring up his addiction things too much, but obviously you think about it a little bit when Oliver mentions people getting addicted with the Royce guy stuff.
Yeah, and Royce looks at Speedy and is like, the past's catching up to you, huh? And so it's almost like, okay, there's a reminder that this is a pharma bro. We know what Roy's past was with illicit substances.
Yeah, because the last bit of the issue is Roy says goodbye and he's walking home and he's civvies, and some like homeless guy maybe, or maybe just a guy who's like really like struggling is like, please sir, can you help? And the way he reaches up at him actually gives Roy a flashback of like one of his like this is a famous panel, right, of him reaching up. Yeah, I thought I'd recognize that.
If it's not one for one, it's very inspired by that.
Yeah, when he was addicted, and like I love Montos's like art here on Roy's face as he looks down. It does this sort of like disgust, not disgust at the man. Like I don't think he's judging the man, but more just disgust because it's making him think of himself, and like there's like a slight sneer to him. It's not a lot. It's very subtle, and again, it's Montos being so good at his job. But this is where, because the opening of this was a lot more bombastic. They just kind of come crashing through a skylight. One of the things that I liked about a lot of the stuff in the first arc, this run, was the way it would build up in the pacing and build this sense of atmosphere. And I think that's what this last part does here, is that this guy runs into Wally and he's just kind of frantic and says, watch out. And runs away as if something bad's happening, like just down the alleyway. So the red hair throw me off. Roy runs down and sees this guy who's been hit with an arrow, a pink arrow, seemingly. And he's like, hey, you all right? And the guy's sort of passing out. And that's when our villain of this arc, shows up. Now, is it Mr. Royce in an outfit? We'll find out. I don't know. That's the obvious guess right now, to be honest.
Yeah.
But, villain talks behind Roy. Roy gets up and he's like, you did this. And we get this guy who is the Crimson Arrow, is the name of this villain. And there's
Crimson Archer.
Sorry, Crimson Archer, sorry, not Arrow. Sorry, yes. Yeah, my mind went there because obviously
I know
naming conventions. But he's got like a lot of red mist coming off of the arrow that he's holding, and he basically fires it at Roy, and Roy goes down, and he's like, "Oh, what did I just pump into you? I call it Crimson Sand." And it's like the last page is this spiral of Roy lying there in this sort of spiral of like smoke, and it's almost like he is, maybe not ODing, but certainly he is. I mean, he does say "Welcome to your overdose," so maybe he is.
Overdose,
yeah, maybe he is literally ODing. But it does feel especially cruel, right? That this villain has targeted Roy and forcibly made him take something, right? Injected him with a substance that is going to make him OD. It's like, it'd be cruel to anyone, obviously, but for someone who specifically had a problem and got over it, and like the way this will probably make everyone look at him afterwards, of like, not that he did this on purpose, but this idea of like, oh, we have to be careful with you now because maybe you'll have a taste for something again or whatever.
It plays on the trust that you have to have in addicts, right? When they're trying to get better, right? You have to believe them at their word. And here, like the fact that they set up that Ollie's been proud of how far has Roy's come, right? He's become Arsenal. He was Red Arrow. He's back to Arsenal. He has Lian, who's now a hero in her own right as Cheshire Cat, right? And for the fact now that he only got spiked by this Crimson Archer because he was trying to help somebody, right? So like when he looks down at that guy that's asking for help, who looks almost like grotesque, almost like a zombie, right? The guy there's a guy running from, I'm guessing the Crimson Archer, barrels through Roy, and then Roy finds the other guy on the ground. So apparently this guy's just going around and spiking people with these arrows, right? So I'm wondering if he's trying to create like an epidemic, right? Get them hooked on this stuff, and then, go out and about, and now Roy's been caught in it, just by the sake of him trying to make things better.
You've got the irony, of course, that Oliver was literally just telling him like all the things that he's proud of, all the things that he's achieved, since he was having these addiction problems, and then immediately this villain's just kind of like put him back there, like and right away. Just that's it. Like he's back on the street, like lying on the ground, ODing on something. So there's a lot of dramatic weight to that, and I'm not sure it's that random though. This does feel targeted to me, like intentionally. Maybe he knows who Roy is, like for real, and like kind of was waiting for him, and intentionally kind of laid a little path to get to him. I could see that being the case. I mean, this guy is bulky. I do think Mr. Royce was fairly bulky. I could see it just being him. Maybe that's the most obvious, and perhaps even too obvious, like solution to this. But
yeah, it would make sense though that the guy who works for the pharmaceutical company is getting people hooked on his stuff.
Yes,
by launching arrows at them.
Would you believe it? His company sells an antidote that'll work for this a treat.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that final page with the purples and the reds and him going down that downward spiral, too, right? With the arrow making a diagonal. It's just it's tragic. Like it literally bummed me out. Like reading this, I went, "Oh no, Roy, buddy." He was just trying to help, and he got caught up in this. But yeah, it would make sense if it was targeted. Like, oh yeah, go get Roy Harper. Even if they don't know that he's speedy, like if they can get like he's pretty prominent, you would think, from his association with Ollie. But yeah, really good issue. Then again, I feel like Condon has really taken the social issues, back to Green Arrow, which I feel like he's kind of the perfect hero for this type of stuff because he's just street level enough, but we also get a different perspective because he has money. So, him knowing the pharmaceutical guy outside of just being Green Arrow, I think that, that always works out when you have an Oliver Queen story.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting like pivot from what the last arc was. Yes, they both have a social issue of sorts. So the last one was like, you know, corrupt, like, you know, the building the houses on this damaged land that got people sick, and then this one is more the pharmaceutical companies, which I think is interesting tackling a different subject like that. Although this one I think has a more traditional like villain in the sense that it's like an evil Green Arrow is the villain this time, which I'm not even critiquing per se, but just pointing out that this is a bit more comic booky inherently than the last arc was to begin with.
I'm just glad it was a new one called the Emerald Archer, not like one of the other million Archie villains that Green Arrow's had.
You mean Crimson Archer? You said Emerald Archer, which is Oliver's nickname.
Emerald Archer's yes, Crimson Archer, because of all the different, you know, the different versions of Arrow, you know, bow and arrow type villains that we've gotten over the years, like Merlin and some of the others. But yeah, this was real good. And again, Monto's art is top notch, and it's good to see he's not just doing the green and purple again. We're getting some red and purple in there now. We're getting the shadows back, and we know we can do the more bombastic stuff from his time on Green Lantern. But here, I thought the superhero stuff looked really good.
Yeah, this might not be anything. I'm probably reading too much into this, but I was looking back through the issue for any other, because that last page, like you said, the background's all purple, and purple's not a color that's in this issue much. I was sort of going back through, and like there wasn't really any. The only exception was a few people at the start in the gala at the museum were wearing purple outfits, and I don't think it means that they were getting to do with it, but I thought maybe this idea of purple being a color that's used for you know, royalty or rich people might be a sign that this villain is connected to that world, which would further point to Royce, perhaps, as the person wearing the mask. But I mean, I might just be reading into that too much. I don't know.
No, it doesn't make sense, right? It's not quite a Chekhov's gun, but the purple here at the beginning and the purple at the end, I feel like that's the only time those come up.
Yeah.
Because as you said, as we're going looking back, because even they pass like the guy buying from a hot dog stand, that's the only other purple as I'm scanning through. So when they're jumping rooftop to rooftop.
So it's the hot dog guys. What you're saying, the hot dog guys behind it all.
No, I'm just saying, like, that's the only other time that it pops up besides the beginning and then at the end here. So.
Yeah.
But good stuff.
All right. What are you giving Green Arrow?
I'm giving this one a straight 8.
I agree with that. 8 out of 10. It's great stuff.